Hello everyone. Today, we're going to talk about an event that profoundly changed recent history, the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack and how it led the United States to enter the Afghanistan War. Have you ever stopped to think how a single day can transform international politics, alter global security strategies, and impact millions of lives around the world? This event marked a turning point in modern history, and understanding what happened, why it happened, and what the consequences were is essential to understanding the world we live in today. I invite you to reflect with me. How do you think this attack affected how countries deal with terrorism? Do you believe the actions taken by the United States were necessary, or could they have been different? This is a topic that sparks many discussions and emotions because it involves security, politics, human rights, and even the impact on our daily lives. So stay with me, because throughout this video, we will explore in detail how this tragic event led to a radical change in international politics and why it is considered a turning point in recent history. Ready? Let's go! To better understand the context that led to this significant moment in history, let's analyze what was happening before the September 11, 2001 attack. Before this event, the world was already facing a series of challenges related to terrorism, political tensions in the Middle East, and the presence of extremist groups threatening global security. The United States, for example, was involved in various international issues, including conflicts in the Middle East, the fight against terrorism, and efforts to maintain global stability. However, the scenario was also marked by growing concern over extremist groups promoting violence and hatred, such as the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda. Led by Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda aimed to fight what they saw as Western influence and the U.S. military presence in the region. The organization had already carried out previous attacks, such as the bombings of U.S. embassies in Africa in 1998 and the attack on the USS Cole in 2000, demonstrating that they posed a real and constant threat. This pre-2001 period was characterized by increasing international tension, with many countries trying to balance their security policies and diplomatic relations. The presence of extremist groups and their links to the Middle East created an environment of instability that, unfortunately, culminated in one of the most tragic events in modern history. On September 11, 2001, one of the most tragic and defining moments in recent history occurred. That day, a coordinated terrorist attack changed the perception of security worldwide forever. 4 airplanes were hijacked by members of Al-Qaeda. 2 of them were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, causing devastating collisions that led to the collapse of both buildings. It was a moment of shock, deep sadness, and a sense of vulnerability that no one could have imagined before. Another plane was directed at the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. military command, causing extensive destruction and many deaths. The 4th plane, possibly headed toward another important symbol, crashed in Pennsylvania after passengers attempted to regain control, preventing it from hitting a larger target. That day left a trail of pain, irreplaceable losses, and a sense of insecurity that shook the entire world. It is estimated that at least 3,000 people were lost. It made us rethink our security strategies, international policies, and how we protect our lives. The feeling of vulnerability spread across the globe, leading to profound changes in politics, security, and our approach to terrorism. Let's now talk about how the United States responded to the September 11, 2001 attack. Immediately after this devastating event, the President George W. Bush delivered an important speech to the country and the world. In this speech, he justified the need for military action to protect the nation and combat the terrorist threats that had appeared so brutally. The declared objectives of the American government were clear: first, to fight terrorism in all its forms; second, to dismantle the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda, responsible for the attack; and third, to capture or eliminate Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda and the main person responsible for planning and coordinating the attacks. This response marked a radical shift in U.S. foreign policy, leading to the invasion of Afghanistan, where Al-Qaeda had its bases, and the start of a war that would last for years. The U.S. response was swift and decisive, but it also sparked debates about the limits of the use of force, human rights, and the consequences of a prolonged war. This phase marked a new era in the fight against terrorism, with military actions, changes in security policies, and increased attention to global threats. The intervention in Afghanistan, as you know, was primarily motivated by the fact that the country was the base of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, which supported and protected the terrorists responsible for various attacks around the world. Let's remember that Al-Qaeda was directly linked to the September 11th attack. The need to dismantle this refuge was essential to ensure global security and prevent these groups from continuing to plan and carry out violent actions. The military operation began in October 2001, under the name Operation Enduring Freedom. Operation Enduring Freedom was the official name for the military campaign launched by the United States and its allies in response to the September 11th attacks. The main goal of Operation Enduring Freedom was to dismantle terrorist groups, especially Al-Qaeda, and to remove the Taliban regime in Afghanistan that was providing safe haven to terrorists. The operation began in October 2001, shortly after the attacks, with a swift military invasion of Afghanistan. U.S. and coalition forces conducted airstrikes, special operations missions, and ground assaults to target terrorist training camps, military bases, and leadership figures. The operation aimed to eliminate Al-Qaeda's presence in Afghanistan, capture or kill Osama bin Laden, and establish a stable government that could prevent terrorist groups from regaining strength. Operation Enduring Freedom marked the start of a long-term effort to combat terrorism and promote stability in the region. It involved not only military actions but also efforts to rebuild the country's infrastructure, support the Afghan government, and train local security forces. The campaign faced many challenges, including insurgency, political instability, and the difficulty of nation building. Overall, Operation Enduring Freedom was a significant part of the broader war on terror, and its impact has been felt for many years, shaping U.S. foreign policy and military strategy in the fight against global terrorism. This intervention marked a turning point in the fight against terrorism, but it also raised many complex questions about war, security, human rights, and rebuilding a country that had faced decades of conflict. Now, I want to hear your opinion. What do you think about this intervention? Do you believe it was necessary? What impacts did this operation have on the region and the world? How do you see the role of the international community in this kind of action? Leave your comments below. And so, with the direct help of the USA, after years of conflict, one of the most significant moments was the fall of the Taliban regime, with the capture of Kabul and the end of the extremist government that controlled much of the country. This victory marked an important step in the attempt to establish a more stable and democratic government, but it also brought a series of new challenges to the region and the international community. After the fall of the Taliban, stabilization, reconstruction, and counterterrorism missions became priorities. Involved countries worked to rebuild infrastructure, promote education, strengthen institutions, and ensure the safety of the population. However, these efforts faced huge obstacles, such as ongoing insurgencies, terrorist actions, and difficulties in rebuilding a country that had experienced decades of conflict and instability. The presence of insurgent groups, which continued fighting against the government and international forces, greatly hindered lasting peace and effective reconstruction in Afghanistan. Now, I want to hear your opinion. How do you see the development of this war? Do you think the fall of the Taliban regime was a real progress? What are the biggest challenges the country still faces today? And in your opinion, what would be the best strategies to ensure lasting peace and effective rebuilding? I believe that the development of this war has been quite complex and full of ups and downs. The fall of the Taliban regime was, without a doubt, an important step, as it represented an attempt to establish a more open and democratic government. However, the country still faces many challenges, such as political instability, ongoing violence, poverty, and lack of access to basic services for a large part of the population. Additionally, the fall of the Taliban regime and stabilization efforts in Afghanistan certainly had an impact on the fight against global terrorism, especially because the country was a central point for extremist activities. Nonetheless, the outcome was not a definitive solution to the terrorism problem. Even after the regime change, extremist groups continued to operate in the region, and instability persisted, making it difficult to achieve a significant reduction in terrorism on a global scale. Therefore, although these efforts have helped weaken certain groups and create opportunities for security advancements, combating terrorism remains an ongoing and complex task that requires coordinated strategies, effective intelligence, and constant international cooperation. This event was the catalyst that led to the military intervention in Afghanistan, marking the beginning of a new phase in the fight against global terrorism. It was a moment of great impact, which mobilized entire countries to take decisive actions to protect their populations and combat extremist groups. Looking back, we can learn several important lessons. One of them is the importance of being alert to threats and acting responsibly and with planning, always seeking solutions that promote peace and stability. We also learn that military actions, although necessary at certain times, bring complex and lasting consequences that need to be carefully considered to avoid endless cycles of conflict. Additionally, do you think that if this attack hadn't happened, or if it had occurred in a different country other than the US, it would have the same cultural impact against terrorism that we have today? Leave your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to leave a like. See you in the next video.